Hey everyone, it's Ian Heller with Distribution Strategy Group with yet another technology leader panel. This one's called Tools to Help Distributors Maximize Sales and Productivity. I got a couple of fantastic guests today. I'll introduce them in a minute. But first of all, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So whether you're here live or you're watching the recording, it means a lot to us. If you're here live, please consider sending in your questions and sending them in early. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, gives you a chance to ask questions from our experts today. So let's do a little bit of business before we get started. First of all, we have our next live conference. Our live conferences get great ratings. They're really fun. They're casual. They are progressive in terms of the technology points of view that we take. I mean, you really want to be there. And this one's called the Profit and Productivity Summit. We'll be focusing in on how you can use various technologies to improve your sales profitability, productivity across the enterprise. Everything from smart pricing and order automation to better returns, workforce and sales productivity, you name it. We already have John Wyborg, who's the CEO of Stellar Industrial, speaking, and Alex Chalsowski, who's probably everybody's or among the favorite economists. Who's just a dynamic speaker. You're going to love him. He'll be talking about what's going on with the economy that affects your profit and productivity. We've got a bunch more speakers coming up soon. Scan the QR code or go to profitandproductivity.com. You're going to want to join us. It's going to be amazing. It's also brought to you by our new suite of software, Distributor RX software suite. We got Customer Experience RX, which is a Net Promoter Score or customer feedback designed specifically for distributors, highly actionable. Employee Experience, which is an employee engagement measurement, and Demand RX, which helps you estimate sales potential by product line, by account to uncover wallet share opportunities and gaps. This software is designed specifically for distributors. It's totally proprietary. We designed it ourselves, led by my business partner, Jonathan Bine, PhD. Anyway, you're going to love this stuff. It's relatively low cost. It's easy to implement, and it makes a huge difference. The customers who are on this, we've got dozens of them now. Customers absolutely love these products. So I hope you'll check them out. You can go to distributionstrategy.com, click on software for more information. Okay, without further ado, let me bring in today's guests. I'm really looking forward to this discussion with Josh Bardell, Principal Global Industries for Pros, and Kristen Tom, SVP of Customer Experience at White Cup. Kristen, Josh, how are you guys doing today?
Good
Doing
morning.
great.
Ian, I just love the energy you always bring to these events. It's fantastic. So thank you for having us.
Well, I really appreciate that. I'm often accused of that being pharmaceutical or illicit, but I swear to God, it's not. It's just, it's all natural. Well, maybe a little caffeine.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So, Kristen, how are you?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Good. We're gonna have a great discussion today. I really appreciate you guys joining us. I mean, you're such smart, capable experts on technology and how distributors can use it to create better experiences for themselves and their customers. So before we start, though, why don't we do a little background? I don't know, Josh, why don't you start and tell us, what's your background? I know you've worked for some distributors before and some technology companies. So, give us a little tour of your bio and what you're doing today.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So I've been in the pricing for manufacturing distribution space for over 25 years. It's a fun story. I actually started my career in pricing at United Airlines. I wanted to be an airline pilot, so I was going to go fighter route, then commercial route. And I knew that on the commercial side, you needed to ideally work for management in order to get those slots as a line pilot when you were ready to go out on the line.
Wow.
So the job that I interviewed and got accepted into was actually the pricing team at United Airlines. So I was in the revenue management department, and through a course of my career, it's been bounced in and out, and I've really kind of focused in on pricing. After about 7 years, left United Airlines and went into the distribution and manufacturing space. So I worked in the medical, hospitality, even the retail side on the B2B for office supplies. And then about 6.5 years ago, joined Pros after having deployed Pros twice as a customer, fell in love with the technology of really helping sellers price and deliver products in an efficient and seamless way to their customers. So I had wild success utilizing the platform. And so I thought it'd be great to join the organization where I've spent the last 6.5 years being a strategic advisor to our customers and prospects,
Yeah.
helping them paint the vision of the as is, the to be process of what technology can do in the distribution space.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's awesome. And I know you went on to become a private pilot. So you
Yes,
sort of accomplished your dream in a different way.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, I've been flying for over 27 years now.
Yeah, built some
It's been
planes. Yeah.
fantastic.
That's cool. Awesome. Okay, Kristen. So, man, we've watched you rise up the ranks at White Cup. It's been fun to work with you along the way. So, congratulations on all your success. Tell us about your background and what you're doing today.
Sure. So I've been at White Cup for coming up on 12 years here, and in a variety of roles. I really kind of learned by doing every step of the way. So when I initially started, I was running implementations and onboardings for our new customers and learned a ton being kind of on that ground floor, setting it up, understanding their business, how they make money, how they succeed, what challenges they see. I used that. I moved to our support team and worked in customer support for a lot of years. I worked with our development team for a few years, moved back over to professional services for a while. Spent the last couple years running product, which in our organization is our roadmap, what we're going to build next, what we're excited about, what we hear from distributors that they need in their businesses that will help them be better. So spent the last couple years focusing on that. And then just recently, last year, took on this new role, which is customer experience, where I now own pretty much everything that I've done here at White Cup. So I own our roadmap still and where we're going next, and also have all of our customer-facing teams as well. So our support, our professional services, et cetera. So for us, it's a ecosystem there. All of those things play into each other. Our roadmap is better because of how we interact with our customers and how people use our systems. So it's just understanding all of that and bringing it together in a single role. So been a ton of fun for sure. And yeah, we
Yeah.
spend all of our time thinking about how we can help distributors in the CRM and BI and now AI space as well to improve their businesses, drive revenue and margin on their side.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So I got some questions for you. We talked about these a little bit in advance, but again, to the audience, please weigh in with your questions because we can take this conversation where it's most useful to you if you tell us where that is. So, Josh, I'll start with you. What are the biggest obstacles preventing sales teams from being more productive in your experience?
You know, I thought about this one a lot, Ian. When we think about the obstacles from being productive, I really feel, in my view, it's legacy systems.
Mm,
Um, Specifically in the distribution space, so many of the customers and prospects that I work with are still stuck in AS400 green screens and
yeah.
living in Excel. And when we think about not only being able to deliver the right price at the right time for their customers for every product, how are sellers supposed to efficiently serve up the new buyers that want seamless, that want instant, want to be able to do it through omni-channel or direct? They want trusted advisors. And now when you add to that millions and millions of SKUs as distribution companies are scaling their portfolio of offering to be that one-stop shop, it's that technology stack that's preventing the sales teams from really being productive and serving their customers the way they want. And I feel like that's probably the biggest obstacle is the loss of sight that they have, that what is it their customers want and how do they serve the customers the way the customers want to be served. So it's technical.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wonder how much time account managers are actually spending working on helping customers versus trying to overcome the technology and administrative burdens from poor technology, right?
That's right.
Um, so, Kristen, how would you say the definition of sales productivity has evolved in the distribution space? And has there been a change in how distributors measure productivity over that period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially on the CRM side, I think 5, 10 years ago, is very focused on just hard qualitative facts, or I'm sorry, quantitative facts, right? So how many sales calls each week?
Right, right.
That was the metric to look at, is how many sales calls, how many notes did you log? And what we're seeing now is the shift from that form of kind of oversight to actually quality of interaction and sales enablement of how do you have a better conversation with your customers? How do you target the customers at the right time so that you're having a productive conversation? So we're really seeing that shift from sort of frankly, a management tool in things like CRM, business intelligence, things like that, to an actual sales tool to help them be more effective and productive. We had one customer who was using a legacy system, to Josh's point, that said that their old system was a compliance tool. Their old CRM was a compliance tool. And I think that really like summed it up for me. It's like, yes, that's exactly it. It's kind of a check the box. I have to do this to keep my boss off my back, but really it's more of a time sucker than it is a help for them. So what we're seeing today is the tools should be much more low input, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as we go on and how AI is helping us get there, right? It's much less dependent on the individual to be logging notes and inputting information, and much more on what you get out of the system to be more effective at your job.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's right. I mean, CRMs have kind of changed. I remember years ago, you know, I investigated, well, can you just turn on the GPS on all the sales reps' phones? And then wherever they go, you could like track the location, look up the business they visited
Yep.
to, and put it in. I talked to the sales leaders, and they were like, it's a great idea, other than the fact that all of our salespeople will quit. Like, oh,
Exactly. Yep.
okay, maybe not such a great idea.
That's literally the like nightmare Big Brother CRM sitting on your shoulder, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
exactly. Right, right. So you could do it technologically, but it has, this nasty side effect. So Josh, what do you think are the tools that are most critical in helping sellers prioritize accounts and also prioritize the actions for those accounts?
Yeah, when we think about the word kind of what are the tools, it's interesting because I think that is a question that the answer I give today is probably going to change tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
That's how fast technology is moving, particularly in the distribution space, right? Things have accelerated because businesses have seen that investing in technology is giving them such a competitive advantage. So if I think back even just 90 days ago, or 6 months ago, so if that 3 to 6 months ago, the word of agentic AI, the word of AI agents in the distribution space didn't even really exist. And now it's where the future is at. And so when we think about, what's happening in the marketplace and the rise of this kind of technology stack that is happening, this is where the tools are critical, right? That selling platform, so defined as CPQ, that will sit and embedded and ingrained with your CRM. And for those who don't know, CPQ is a configure price quote solution. This enables sellers to, instead of having this back and forth manual process of send a quote out after I've had a 30-minute phone call, wait a day for that adjustment to come back in this round robin of it takes me 20 days to finalize a complex quote for a customer. With a CPQ solution, they can be building that using the agents to drive efficiency and speed and get a quote out in a matter of minutes or even hours on a highly complex quote. That type of transformation, that is really what is critical today. And I feel like, again, as businesses like Pros is investing millions of dollars in the CPQ side for what's next. We launched our agents at the beginning of this year. And when we think about what's next, I can't even fathom where our scientists are going to take to drive that efficiency, that ability to serve their customers the way they want, when they want and how they want to be served. So I think that's really, to me, what I see in the distribution space is the CPQ side. Of course, pricing, I know we're going to talk with Ian a little bit about that later, is the number one priority in the toolkit for sellers today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think so. I think we should sidebar on AI for a little while. I mean, it's part of every technology discussion. It's part of every strategy discussion, anyway. But certainly when it comes to tools for improving sales productivity, they're evolving very quickly. So you mentioned agentic AI, which yeah, I think people are increasingly hearing the term. Maybe they're not as familiar with what it means, and specifically what it means for distributors. So, Kristen, do you want to go a little bit into? And this is a surprise question. Surprise. Do you want to go a little bit into what agentic AI is going to mean for distributors in your view?
Yeah, and to get there, I'm actually going to back up a little bit
Yeah,
because
go
I
ahead.
think it's the continuation that we've been seeing in this space. And so I think a lot of it starts with intelligence about your customers. And Josh kind of mentioned this earlier, is it visibility to the customer interactions, visibility to order history, all of the customer information you could have. That's kind of the first kind of piece, the cornerstone there. Next is automation around that, right? So we've got all of this intelligence. Now, can we apply some automation to make ourselves more efficient, help us prioritize, get some of the, uh, grunt work type of stuff off of our
Yeah,
plate so we can spend
right.
more time on high value stuff. That's kind of the next piece there. Then it becomes using AI for things like suggested actions, right? We're applying AI to find patterns and surface exceptions and patterns for us so that we can take action on that. We want to know when we have a change in buying behavior from one of our customers so we can figure out why and have a conversation and use that for a selling
Yeah.
opportunity. We want AI to help us do those things. I think the next after that is where we're at now, like Josh mentioned, which is agentic, which is okay, we've got all of these building blocks, our intelligence, our automation, our AI suggestions for us for actions and things like that. And now agentic is using AI as essentially kind of a personal assistant for us to help us be better at what we're doing. So it's taking actions on behalf of us with some, oversight in place. We hope, right, as responsible users of AI, but taking some actions on behalf of us based on the intelligence, the automations, and the AI like suggested actions. So again, the intent here as we get to agentic AI is really removing noise from your team's plate so they can focus on the high value pieces themselves. And agentic AI is going to be a good partner in doing that. So again, part of it is an extension of automation, and part of it is giving us better ways to interact with our data and understand our customer data better to be better sellers at the end of the day.
Kristen, if I can add to that, you mentioned something that's really important here is because how many times do we hear about the word, AI taking over and eliminating the salespeople? And that has created a lot of resistance, right, out there in the marketplace. But you kind of said, I love the word, I think you used the word like kind of like an assistant for you to take the load off. And for businesses to really be successful, right? I know you and I have both seen this, is sellers need to be focused on getting more depth and breadth within an existing account, and then really focusing on the new customer acquisition aspect to grow the portfolio. If you have a customer who's buying and reordering products and goods every single week, they know what their portfolio is, they want to be able to self-serve that. Why are we wasting our sellers' valuable time to be order takers? And this is, again, where kind of that AI comes in to help say, I want to look at when is the right time to send an email account and what should I be doing to drive more smart conversations with my customers. Or if I'm building a complex configuration, like let's just say an HVAC system for an industrial company, right? I need to know how many doors and windows and square feet and insulation and volume size. And that really creates a complex configuration of how many air conditioners, what efficiencies, what types of technology, where do all of the components of that HVAC system need to be. Why not use AI to be able to say, I've got a 24 door, 12 window, 1 million square foot office building, build me an efficient HVAC system and let the AI completely configure that in a matter of seconds instead of the 48 steps it would take a seller to do that manually. It's not to replace them. It's allowing them to make more money for their organization and ultimately their own pocketbook. It's because they're most likely commissioned.
To build off of that too, Josh, I think it's the like you mentioned, this is what the buyers are expecting at this point, right? This is what distribution customers are expecting at this point. So your customers as a distributor are expecting this type of interaction with us, or with your team. And I think that's really important to kind of key in on as well as their expectation of what that buying process is going to look like. And then how do you meet that as a distributor with, limited amounts of resources, right? You have to start getting a little bit of a change mindset to meet those new demands. Josh, the example you gave of configuring the HVAC system, I think is great. It's an efficiency play that directly ties into building revenue and margin in your business, right? And so there's it's not just efficiency for efficiency's sake, it's efficiency in your business that's driving an outcome that's really vital for your business. The other piece of this that I always think about on the customer side is customers as agentic AI progresses and becomes more and more ingrained in our everyday life, which it's going to be very quick, I think, here, as we've seen over the last year of all of the progressions, customers are going to start using it on their side as well. So, they're going to use agentic AI to put in an order. And so if your business is still thinking that in order to accept and enter an order, it needs to have a personal touch, you're going to soon be talking with an agentic AI order from your customer, and all of a sudden that mindset that's your one differentiator is gone. And so it's the time now to be thinking about this, about how your customers' buying is going to be changing as we progress, because your reaction to that on the distribution side is going to need to change as well.
Yeah. And Ian, I'm going to do it. I said I'd do it, and I'm going to do it right away at the very beginning. We kind of think about how business is being transformed, right? And if we go back, what, Chris, and even just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was B2B, which most of us on this call really kind of focus our careers in on. And then there's that B2C side. But that really has blended together. And it's now just P2P, people to people. And that is because of things like Amazon experience. And I know there are many other examples, but we all know Amazon, about how easy it became to just click a button and get a product the very next day. And for all of those people that are on, I'm doing the shameless plug here for Ian. I just recently learned this morning that Ian wrote a novel and has recently been published. And it's Perun's Hammer. And we were talking about this book, and he knows I love to read. And so he was saying, oh, it's out there. And so I immediately, first thing I did, I went right to Amazon, and I was like, there it is. It's fantastic. And my second comment was, Ian, your book is priced too low. We got to raise the price of this. Your profit margins can go up. And then the third was, in a single click, I got that book. It's going to be here tomorrow morning. I'm super excited to read Ian's new book. That's got 4.8 stars, by the way, which is phenomenal for a first book out. But it's that seamless experience that I expect as a consumer, I now expect in my B2B world. And that is really blended. And you have to have technology in order to enable that in these legacy types of environments.
Josh, first of all, thanks so much for that endorsement and for buying my book. I hope you like it. Thank you very much. I'm really flattered. So a couple thoughts as you guys were talking. One is you both kind of got into this, what's the impact of AI on jobs, in particular on salespeople. And before you actually said it, Kristen, I was thinking about how, well, I think that, we still need salespeople. I think they're less impacted by AI than some other roles. But as you mentioned, customers are becoming agentic, they're agents, AI as well. And at the rate that your customer contacts become non-human, you're going to need fewer salespeople. I mean, that may ultimately be the arbiter of how many salespeople you need, is how many of your customers are still people. And I mean, your customer interactions. And so I think as the automation isn't only on the selling and the customer service side, it's also on the procurement and the purchasing side, right? So as that gets digitized, you're just not going to need as many customer service people, and you're not going to need as many salespeople. The other thing I was thinking about is at our AI conference we just had, Jamie Head, who's the head of technology for Partstown, this huge distributor of food equipment parts. They have like this agentic capability, and basically what they've done is they've documented years and years of call resolutions. And so there's a whole database of the customer had this problem and this part was the solution, the customer had that problem and this other part was the solution, and their AI actually queries that database. And and so without a human involved, someone can say, hey, here's my problem, and the system can recommend this part based on, I mean, that's classic AI, right? It's learning, and the bigger the database, the more it learns. But these things are already happening at the most advanced distributors. There's a lot more coming soon.
I think so. And before we, send anyone into a total panic, the one asterisk that I want to put on that is I do still see, well, this is the trend, right? This is where we're going. I do still see a little bit of like hesitancy and pushback on that, and for good reason, right? It's a new technology. We always
Yeah.
need to know what we're getting ourselves into. But the one thing that I like to encourage distributors to think about now, as they're starting to get into more agentic AI and things like that, is sometimes understanding your customer, like that salesperson that's been with you for 30 years and knows the customer like the back of their hand. There's a ton of value in that still. Don't disregard that.
Yeah.
And so one thing today that I think is important is kind of treating your customer, golden rule, right? Treat your customers how they want to be treated type of deal. Because we still see a lot of customers in this space that want that personal connection. They want that salesperson connection, things like that. And so as we're seeing these trends for more self-serve, more automation, more agentic AI, things like that in our sales processes, you still have other folks that are very resistant to that. And so sometimes a peanut butter approach where you just do a thin spread across everybody and give them the same treatment isn't actually your best bet.
Right.
And I think there's some ways and some tooling to help out with flagging. Again, treat your customers how they want to be treated. Are they, always the ones that call in on a phone to customer service and inside sales? Or are they using the form on your website to reach out instead? Use these different small cues that your customers are giving you to tailor their experience with your team. And again, tooling should help you do that, not make that a huge mountain to climb. But I think that is really important here in this space as everybody is figuring this out as we go.
Cool. Okay, so I want to get into personalization and pricing intelligence, and then come back and pick up aligning sales tools with customer expectations. So, Josh, let's start with this. I think pricing is often used as a way to maximize margin, but doing pricing poorly can drive a tremendous amount of frustration and anger with customers, right? I mean, you're not consistent across channels, the pricing changes too much, or you charge the same customer two different prices on the same day. I mean, there are all kinds of ways that you annoy customers with your pricing. And then personalization obviously is much appreciated. It's kind of like, I really appreciate that ChatGPT is so polite to me, even though I know it's just a machine. Personalization is the same way. Even if it's delivered by a system, I still appreciate it because someone had the thought to build it in, right? So, how can distributors use more personalized and productive sales conversations through personalization? And what role does dynamic or pricing optimization play in the sales process? So, two questions for you.
Yeah, obviously pricing is kind of where my whole life has been
Sure.
spent and so I'm very passionate about pricing. And it's interesting. I follow a lot of threads on like LinkedIn and a lot of channels around pricing. And it's interesting. There was a post today that just kind of, I feel like it's going to be viral by the end of the day. And someone had taken a picture at a theme park of what looks like a Costco quality pizza that we all know is $9.99 at this theme park. And it was a $55 pizza.
Wow.
And people were talking about supply and demand, and other people were saying, no, this is a captive audience. This is just greed. And
Right.
there was already like 150 comments within the first hour being posted around kind of the pricing associated with a pizza. And, is that is it's that passionate. And I think businesses and buyers are becoming very passionate around what is the right price that is out there. So when we think about kind of that personalized, and Kristen, you talked a lot about it, you need to think about how your customer wants that experience. You know, PwC recently did a study that found that customers in the B2B space are willing to pay 16% more for a superior buying experience. Easy to do business with, speed, and consistent. 16%. So when I kind of think about so many of our distributors and people on this call are striving for 100, 200 basis points movement, and there's 1,600 basis points that are being left on the table or more, right? I mean, that's incredible. And so when we think about that personalized, if you think about you're a distributor today, you have lots of competitors that are out there, right? And now you have the technology stack that when your customer calls or they bounce on your e-commerce site or you're in the field with a tablet because they want you out there shaking hands in the dirt, in that, you know, in that truck out in the middle of the job site. And you can, regardless of the channel, be able to serve up in milliseconds a 10,000 line item quote that is tailored to the penny of what we know based on science, neural network technology that can say exactly what they're going to pay, where they're price sensitive, right? Where you can harvest margin on those long tail SKUs. We all have probably 70% or more of our SKUs are long tail that are not that price sensitive. Being able to do that in a collaborative quote, whether it is phone or digital, to where you can collaborate in real time and configure a complex order, terms, agreements, discounts, right? All of that can assess the profitability for you as a seller, and at the same time create that type of experience for your customers. That's what's going to drive the profitability for your organization. That's what's going to win the deal. We know that first quote out, if it is the right quote with the right product, the right experience, and the right price, you are going to win the business. So when you think about how you can invest in a pricing and a selling platform to enable your sellers to do that, and your competition doesn't, you will dominate them. And we see that over and over again every single year. I think that in the distribution space, this is one of the biggest opportunities right now, is when I can help paint that vision. And I get really excited when they can see that click, knowing that, oh my gosh, if I can take 1% of price and extract that, that's 8.7% of profit. That goes straight to the bottom line. How can I enable my sellers to be able to do that and do that in milliseconds, not days, weeks, or months? So it's really disrupting. And we're starting to see in automotive, healthcare, and different types of technology business that they are completely disrupting the industry right now. And I would ask all of the people that are participating on this call, if you are starting to get devoured by competition, they probably have invested in technology. So you need to get that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think the battle's going to go to the swift, not the large. A lot of times, some of the larger distributors are very swift in how they adopt technology, and that's really their advantage, even more than scale, is that they're ahead on a lot of these technologies. I mean, we see it in the market all the time. Now, Kristen, how are customer expectations driving the need for better sales tools in your experience?
Josh kind of touched on this earlier, but that difference that we used to see in business tools versus tools that we use in our personal life is gone, right? We all expect, as Josh said, the Amazon experience when we're interacting in a sales process or things like that. And so a lot of it, again, Josh just mentioned this as well. I couldn't agree more. Speed is a huge part of it. They want immediate access. They want that ability to do stuff really, really quickly. They want visibility. They want self-serve research. So giving them the tools to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of finding out on their own. And the new piece that I'm starting to see, and I think this will only become a bigger and bigger deal with AI taking over more and more of some of these interactions and how we interact with our customers, is transparency as well.
Yeah.
So just an understanding of pricing. What will this look like for me? Lead times is huge right now, right? We have threats of tariffs and supply chain or supply chain disruptions and
Yeah.
things like that, kind of always over our heads at this point. So anything that we can provide for that transparency piece, I think, is increasingly important and going to be louder and louder of what we need to provide for customers as well.
Kristen, I love how you talked about the tariff, right? I mean, I know we're all tired of hearing about tariffs. I know
Yeah.
I am. But I saw a fascinating article recently, because as we know, the automotive industry for European car manufacturers, particularly we think like BMW and Porsche, have been significantly impacted. Porsche, one of the most, because they don't have any manufacturing plants. BMW has a little bit of manufacturing in Mexico and on the East Coast, but when we think about Porsche, they're exclusively still made in Germany, and they ship them over. And they have been historically an incredibly profitable company. And they had container ships of boats, just parked on the various two ports with thousands of cars that they refused to bring in until they understood exactly what's happening with the tariffs. And around transparency, what they chose to do is publish new window stickers that has what's called a ZTR code. And you can go out there and research this. It's fascinating. Instead of just marking up the price on the base price of the car, and then you've got, your zillion options that these cars have, they now have a line item called ZTR, and it either says $0 or some other dollar value, depending on the car, because they knew that what they didn't want to do was just jack up the price of the car and have that tariff diluted in there. Because if the tariffs, as we know, one day it's on, one day it's at 25%, the next day it's at 10 or 50, they don't want to have to keep fluctuating the MSRP of their car, because that was really going to disrupt their buyers. They wanted the transparency. And so there is a ZTR code. So if you go into that Porsche lot or go on the website and look at a window stickers, because they do digital window stickers, you have 100% transparent. Is this car impacted by tariffs? Yes or no? And how much
So ZTR is the tariff amount?
tariff? Yeah, that's exactly
Okay,
what
got
it
it. Okay.
is.
Right.
Yeah, it's incredible. And their customers have really found that transparency and understanding what is happening to the price of the car has made a buying experience much less painful for them when they see that. It's because if they see a ZTR 0, it's almost, they want to capture that car because they know some of the new ones coming in will have a ZTR value associated.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Huh. Those perceptions are so powerful. It's like free freight is worth more than the cost, to people. They overvalue it. But in this case, the transparency is the most important thing. I had a funny experience this weekend. So I fixed my washing machine, which is a major accomplishment for me with my marginal mechanical skills. And I found out it needed a new water pump. So I went online. It's a really common part. There were 100 different sources, right? The only place that guaranteed it in 48 hours was Amazon. All right. When I hated doing this, but I bought it from Amazon. It was fulfilled by a distributor who I will not name. That distributor advertised that part online, but didn't guarantee it in 48 hours. So they're literally guaranteeing service through Amazon that they don't guarantee direct to their customers, at least not their, customers who aren't logged in on their website. And it just strikes me as I'm certain they would have made more margin had they sold it direct versus some discount through the Amazon marketplace. But it feels like, look, if you're going to bring technology to the benefit of your customers, you should not just use that or apply that benefit through your third party seller marketplace like Amazon. You ought to apply it directly to your customers. I would have ordered it directly from them. Now, maybe they couldn't have guaranteed that because they needed the Amazon delivery fleet or something to get it to me. I don't know. But it made me feel like that customer cares more about their customer, that distributor cares more about the customers they service through Amazon than the customers they service directly. Maybe unfair, but that was the impression I came away with.
I was curious, Ian, how was the pricing difference between Amazon and from the distributor? Was
It
there a
was
price difference?
exactly the same. It was $40. I mean, it's not very
No
expensive.
kidding.
So they were just taking less margin
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazon.
In pricing teams, right, who are setting pricing, we always see this tug of war between sellers and pricing teams, right? Is I'm overpriced or I need to compete. How are pricing teams supposed to be able to track millions of SKUs that is a distribution company across all of these channels? Because they've got these resellers and these third parties, and they've got the storefronts, they've got the drop ships, they've,
Right.
the direct. You have to break some of that pricing parity across these different channels in order to make it so you are extracting the right margin, because you're right, they lost a lot of margin doing that, when
Yeah.
it's very likely you could have gotten it direct instead of a drop ship through them going through the Amazon marketplace.
Yeah. But I needed it Sunday so I could ruin my Sunday putting this thing back together. Um, okay. Hey, Kristen. So I presented twice to your team at the invitation of your management team, and I really appreciated those opportunities. But the last time I did some research, and we were in Albuquerque, and one of the things that I discovered from our own research, and this is research that Jonathan Bine, my business partner, has done, is if you look into CRMs, which is, I think hit the tipping point now with distributors. They used to be very reluctant to put them in place. Now it seems like everybody feels like they need one. I think that some of that's because of what you referred to earlier, which is that management teams have stopped using them as a control mechanism and have used them as an sales enablement mechanism, and so
It's
adoption.
no longer the stick, it's the carrot. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we discovered in our research, and this is just objective research that we did, is the purpose-built CRMs, like White Cup, they outperform every other type of CRM, even the ones that are native to ERPs, in terms of speed of implementation, adoption, the way that the sales reps rate them. I mean, they really have these inherent advantages versus the big generic systems that are used across industries, and the ones that are built into ERPs, which arguably are, they're just trying to provide something of a CRM. It's not really a competitor to your product in any real sense. But what is it? What is the advantage? And I know this sounds like I'm asking you to sell a little bit, and that's not really your job. But I do think it's important for distributors to understand what is it about these purpose-built CRMs that provide such a notable eyebrow-raising advantage in our data.
Yeah, I think first off, it's understanding the data coming in. So understanding that ERP data that we use as the basis for business intelligence that we're running AI on to provide suggestions, things
Yeah.
like that. It's understanding that data and how that works in a distribution business. Part of that is, frankly, not having to build that yourself, that integration between your ERP and your CRM, or paying a third party a ton of money to do that. there's a speed factor there. I think really it comes down to having something that already works for your business day one, so you can focus on getting that adoption, making sure it makes sense for the things that make your distributor unique versus other distributors, rather than just getting the baseline kind of in place. And part of that is, again, the sort of change management internally. We want to be able to speak the language that your team speaks and understand the challenges that are unique to distribution. We always give this example because it's just like the most surface level kind of silly one, but it really does make a big difference. For a CRM, obviously a big piece of what you're doing is account management and understanding accounts and customer accounts and things like that. Being able to manage bill to ship to relationships really easily pre-built. Again, it's like the most baseline simple thing. But if your CRM, it doesn't come with that just day one, and it's understanding how to ingest that from your ERP and manage that on an ongoing basis, you're going to spend time setting that up instead of spending time on, hey, what's the next cool process we can automate? How do we want to get AI into our sales team's hands to help them accelerate? So to the speed factor and being quick adopters of technology, as we talked about earlier, is kind of a differentiator. It can really put you on a great trajectory there.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. And Josh, you presented at our fall conference, the Profit and Productivity Summit, last year's version of the one I just talked about for this year. And you had a section on what you call the new buyer. right? And there were sort of two categories of that new buyer. One is that sales experience is the new key to revenue growth. So there's this theme that on this call, on this conversation about make things easier, remove friction, convenience matters. Being the fastest to respond matters, but making it a great sales experience. And you mentioned, there's 16 points of margin available in some cases. That's important. Convenience is a competitive differentiator in the presentation you talked about. There's some research around if you do sales through a mobile app, people are more likely to do business with you, particularly younger people. And then you talked about algorithmic driven pricing. So people want personalized pricing, but they also want pricing that's not arbitrary. So it's driven by some kind of algorithm. So can you kind of go through, for the benefit of the people who weren't at that presentation, what are your thoughts around this, convenience, this sales experience as a differentiator, and, making pricing more trusted as a way of getting customer preference?
Yeah, when we think about a new buyer, right? If you have a long-standing relationship with a customer, again, what you really want to do is maximize the depth and breadth of them. But when you have a new customer, you really have that first interaction to set the tone of how the relationship's going to go. And we've all had that even as consumers, whether again we're buying a car, buying a coat, or new appliances, right, or a washer and dryer for our house, is when you walk into a store, and again, whether that's a brick and mortar or a digital store, it's what is that experience like? And when you don't have that strong, seamless experience, or that pricing is not the right price for you, that tailored price, then you immediately get this distrust. And you're likely to leave and either go shop. And if you shop, then it becomes this race to the bottom, because if you want to win them, you have to give away the store in order to have that transaction. And that's what you've now just created as a transactional experience. You haven't built that relationship. But when you have a new customer come in, that you are that strategic advisor, that trusted advisor, that already utilizing AI, again, whether that's agents or a smart CPQ solution that says, hey, I already know because of the industry, the region, what you're interested in. Here are the 10, 12, 20 most important products for you. But most importantly, here is that price that I know is going to resonate with you. That's what captures people. It almost becomes an emotional experience. And that's really what we are as humans. We're emotional. And whether we want to admit it when we're buying or not, right? All the data has shown that I am willing to pay more when it becomes this emotional buying experience for me, when I feel good, and I will pay for that. And again, as you said, when I can get it at the speed I want, the way I want, right? That's really what pricing today has become, is this lever of that fine balance between what is that win rate curve. If I push them too far up in that price envelope, then I'm likely going to trigger that emotional response that I think you're gouging me, and I lose that trust. Versus where's that target, that sweet spot that's going to maximize not only my company's money, but capture that first-time buyers. Because once you've captured them once, now again, you can immediately start converting the depth and breadth with their experience.
Excellent. Okay, good. So let's wrap up with the question each on, sort of a case study or example of how your technology has helped a distributor transform their sales process, since that's what this conversation is all about. So Kristen, and I don't know if it's one example or a handful, but Kristen, when you look at, you have this integrated CRM and BI system, which is, I know they integrate seamlessly, not only with each other, but with, ERPs that you guys connect to. Just give the audience an example of how you have customers who've used that technology to get a better sales process and better results.
Sure. I got a couple examples, both from distributors out of Texas. Both doing some just really interesting things with CRM and BI around their sales process. One, when they were implementing CRM, they were really focused on access across the business. They wanted everybody to have access and visibility. They didn't want to segment just outside sales or anything like that. They wanted marketing, customer service, kind of everybody across the business to have access there. It was really key for them. One of the things that they focused on is that collaboration piece,
Yeah.
just making sure that we can get out of, hey, I got to call this person, I got to send 4 emails to get an approval on this, that type of thing, and using automation to speed up a lot of that for sure. And then they took the next step in sales management and pipeline management, which for them was very exciting. They have a big business growing really quickly. They had never done a proper sales pipeline because it was very manual to get there. And
Yeah.
as soon as you put together a pipeline, it's out of date. Nobody's keeping it up to date. And so what's the point, right? It becomes busy work that nobody's going to do. And again, this is where we could use the business intelligence and automation around that to get that in place for them, both creating opportunities, moving them through stages, updating based on different interactions that are happening, and give them an actual pipeline that they're using from the sales management side for coaching, understanding where these customers are actually at, helping get new sales reps up to speed more quickly. So really exciting there. The other distributor in Texas I wanted to mention, they are all in on mobile. They know that that's how their sales team operates. They know that that is just the way that they can get folks to use a system is from that mobile phone. So all in on mobile for them, it's the really deep insights that you can get from mobile, which means you need access to those deep insights and also remove all the rest of the noise for them. That's really important in the mobile experience. So for them, it's tailored views for their different types of sales reps, just having tailored views for the types of insights being fed into their mobile app and the suggested actions and tasks that are kind of made for them. And they are using that same approach for segmenting customers and kind of targeting. So they're using a bunch of the AI options that are put into place and using that for targeting customers and then feeding these suggestions through mobile to their sales team. They're also huge proponents of utilizing those AI features, and they've got kind of a top-down approach, and they're gaining a lot of excitement on the end user kind of salesperson level, which is exciting. So they're getting going with AI field notes right now. So automated capturing of those in-person meetings. So they're not having to spend time typing in notes afterwards to log to their calls and using that to, again, create those next follow-ups, automate that next step after as well. So those are some fun ones of folks just taking advantage of the business intelligence. And then again, that kind of extension of intelligence, automation, AI kind of is a building train for them that's really getting going.
Excellent. Okay, great answer. And so, Josh, now over to you. Can you talk about some examples where distributors of yours have used your tools to help distributors maximize their sales productivity?
Yeah, absolutely. And Kristen, I love how, and we didn't spend a lot of time onto it, but you talked about the AI powered insights, right? And how important that is, because you have to be able to educate, right, your sales teams, your pricing teams, your leadership teams about exactly what is happening in the business. That standard default reports that aren't tailored for the selling experience, for the pricing experience, just don't work anymore, right? They need to have those margin waterfalls, margin driver reports, mixed rate analytics to understand what truly is happening with my customers and their behavior. So I'm really glad you kind of brought that up. So, Ian, when I think about kind of from a pros lens, how people are using the technology, and we touched on it earlier, right? There's kind of price setting and price getting. So on the price setting, right, leveraging neural network technology to deliver that right price for that right customer and that right SKU. When we think about kind of mathematics here, and when I started in distribution, right, well, I had about 35,000 products and I was, one channel and I had a national price list. So at 35,000 price points, I could do that in Excel. We won't talk about my Lotus Notes days. We're going to stay a little bit more recent than that. But, by the time you leave that organization, even if you only still had 35,000 products, which we know we didn't, we had over 1 million, but you have customer specific price lists and you're serving it through 3 channels, that's 3.1 billion price points.
Incredible.
And so you have to have a pricing solution. And so when you think about an example, is we have a distributor on the East Coast that had over 100,000 SKUs, and they were serving it across 4 different channels. And so they were now able to start creating again, and like you said, on your Amazon and your washer, your $40 part, that if you are self-serving, they actually said, if you go on our e-commerce, you're going to get the best price. If you're going to talk to a sales rep, you're going to pay a little bit more, because that is a heavier cost for us to be able to serve that customer. And they started creating this and shifting the demand. So not only were they extracting more margin out of each and every product because they were getting that tailored, but they could actually start to shift that demand. And Kristen, you talked about your customer who wanted to go all in on mobile. This customer wanted to go all in on that e-commerce experience. And they went from 5% on the e-commerce up to 60% e-commerce transactions in 12 months, while making more money. So setting that right price and then using price to move where your customers are buying and interacting with you is one example. The second is on the CPQ. We talked a lot about how CPQ and CRMs have to be integrated and play well together, because you need your sellers to be able to sell multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment. For example, a $20 million piece of earth moving equipment, being able to go from a 30-day quote down to less than a day. Now imagine being able to be able to configure that type of complex equipment in the field on a laptop and go from a 30-day to actually being able to do it in person live in a matter of hours while you're out in the field. That reduces their quote time, right, by 90%. That's incredible. That's really where the future of, and Kristen, and I know, and Ian, you've talked about it. It's, I want it now, I want it instant, and I'm willing to pay for that.
Yeah, it's about speed now. I mean, speed kills, but I mean, you want it to kill your competitor, not you, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, good. So hey, you guys hang on for just a second. I want to we're out of time, but I want to share an upcoming program or two that we're doing. So hey, this is a theme for us, right? On July 16th, using technology to drive profits and productivity. So Mike Bywer, who's the CEO of Covalo, and Dan Kamenstein at Senior Principal Product Manager at Epicor will be with us. You're not going to want to miss that discussion. We'll get into some similar areas as we're talking about now, but we'll focus a lot on productivity as well. And on the July 23rd, we have a distribution leader panel. We're still signing up some distribution leaders. We've invited a bunch of them to participate on how distributors are solving supply chain challenges. That's particularly interesting in light of what's going on with supply chains around the world and tariffs right now. So you're not going to want to miss that one either. So thank you to Infor for sponsoring that one. Hey, Josh, Kristen, thanks so much. It was a great conversation. I so enjoyed working with you. Josh, thanks for promoting my book and for buying it. I really appreciate that too. Kristen, hey, we'll see you, I'm sure, this fall. And it was great seeing you in Chicago recently. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Until then, go sell, go automate, go adopt AI, have some fun, take care of your customers. We'll see you soon. Bye now.
Thanks.